Artist Nitin Dutt's endeavors range from sculpture, painting, drawing, performance, photo documentation, filmmaking, and architecture. We are going to be witnessing Nitin Dutt's work, which is currently being displayed at Tamarind Art Council. His work is basically based on displacement, his own personal experience from moving from India to United States. We'll also be chatting with Nitin about the color blends and about his own exhibition and installation, which is based on displacement. Hi Nitin, so tell us a little about your exhibition and your installation at Tamarind Art.
Essentially, I'm looking at my work as any artist would. I'm recording my time in displacement, mostly the period when I moved from India to US, and what has influenced me during that period most is my displacement. My art records that process displacement.
That's the personal experience.
Yeah, it is more personal. I'm primarily a sculptor, but I also paint, and I also see this medium to be more like in process for something that might be eventually created, which is more three-dimensional and sculptural. But again, because it's important for me to express. If I cannot make sculptures or 3D art, I do paintings, I do drawings, I do some quick installations. So essentially that's what my process is, and it works at different levels, but essentially all these levels that I'm mentioning over here, whether it be choice of colors or mediums, or they eventually feed into this concept of displacement. And how I use my colors, how I use my techniques, my narrative, my images, they further feed into this stark realization of how I'm divided into two things, and there's this immense realization of two different realms that I come from. One which is essentially India, and now who am I over here living in US as a person detached, not completely detached, but sort of detached from India. So essentially my work concentrates on that. My work is multivalent. It works at different levels. There are moments, for example, over here, where I use sort of metaphors to express personal feelings. For example, a squirrel over here is in the middle of the road. If you ever notice a squirrel in the middle of the road, you would see how confused it is and in which direction it needs to go. So I think as a person living in US, I might be going through the same situation because I'm still tied to my background, and at the same time I'm trying to leave that background and evolve as well. This is purely addressing a very simple expression, which is the realization of two realms. If you look at closely, I mean, the perspective that I'm presenting in this painting is of a person looking outside the room. So again, my intention is to make the viewer realize how I'm divided between two realms, whereas I am in one realm and looking at the other. So again, the realization is immense. I also use a simple technique. It's a very simple expression. I also feel that I have to leave my work at a certain level. For example, this is less narrative, more of a realization. I have to leave my work at a certain level, at a certain ambiguous level, where people can actually come and engage with it. The absence of narrative, in a way of talking, when there's a narrative that is absent, the artist tends to evoke certain feelings from the viewer. As I mentioned earlier, this is because I'm a sculptor, I tend to imagine things more in 3D, whereas these paintings sort of are my means of ideation. And this work is actually titled Sketch 1. It's probably something that I would do in near future, and it's sort of a sketch, it's an idea. I might do a full-scale installation using different materials maybe. But right now this is something that I did quickly. Also, in my shows, it's typical that my end work is sort of reflection of what I might do in future shows. And this particular work is important because number one, it's again talking about two realms, which are further represented by orange color scrolls and the blue color scrolls. And again, the orange and blue, because they are two opposing different colors, orange being a very warm color and blue being a very cool color. So they again represent two different realms. But this particular installation shows that they are sort of coming together, and it might indicate that the conflict that has existed so far in these two realms, it might become to a stage where there is a certain amount of understanding that might develop in these two realms. Personal works like this painting over here, which is titled as Fading Memory, and again, it's full of narrative. I have the image of my family, which is actually a Xerox transfer of a photograph on a canvas, and as the title suggests, it's fading. So again, it talks about a more personal narrative of an artist who is also a human being, and how he deals with his displacement and the agony of displacement, and not being constantly in touch with memories from back home.